Despite the fact that I've remained mostly quiet about it, I've been working on game dev all year and mainly stuck on 2 different projects. The amount of time that I put into both of them is insane, but I kept ignoring people's advice on making smaller scope games. This is something you see in a ton of different game dev videos and devlogs and all that stuff. I thought I was making smaller scope games, but the scope kept getting away from me and all these tiny little features and nuanced details and all that, trying to get the most bang for my buck in terms of how much work I was putting in. But it just stuck me in a permanent void of programming new features for a game that remained basically a tech demo. So, I was in a call with my longtime friend Core, most known for his work with Jack and Eden on Spilling the Milk. He mentioned, hey, why not do a game jam so that you'll be forced to finish? And I looked it up on itch.io, and in that moment, saw that Brackeys Game Jam was just starting, basically the next day. So, I guess I was just in one of those sort of moods. I asked if he wanted to enter it with me. He does sound effects, music, character portraits, and I do the rest, and we did it! So there was like over 12,000, I think just shy or a little over 13,000 total entrants initially, but only 1,500 of those people finished. I say only 1,500. This is a ginormous competition. This was not just my first game jam either, but technically the first game that I've ever released. And yes, it's available for download on itch.io. There's a version 1.1 that fixes some bugs that him and I detected. Okay, so what is the game we made? Well, it's basically a time management social sim. You click on characters, select dialogue options, and try to convince them to come to your bunker before a storm arrives and destroys the town that you're in. Some people will come to your bunker easily, since they don't want to die, obviously. All you have to do is ask. But some require different things, such as speaking with them when time is running out, buying things, or having other people in your bunker before they are okay with going, coaxing them into doing things that they want to do, finding things for people. There's not one way to do it most of the time. So I think it encourages replayability in trying to find more different, nuanced options for the game. For example, there are 3 different ways to get Ted to the church. One's by paying him, and another is having him check who you've already rescued, which has 2 different routes in which he can say yes, depending on the people that you've had survive in your bunker. Also, each person you save will need food to survive. I made it 3 food per day per survivor, so getting enough crops and food is important to the people in your bunker once the storm hits the town on its own. So your limited amount of time is between trying to solve these issues, get the people in your bunker, and have enough food for the amount of people who you did get into your bunker. Managing these is critical. And there's also less obvious ways to get food than just going to the farm. Some characters will be willing to help or offer resources, including money, depending on different things you say at different times. You can essentially blackmail somebody for money, use it to bribe someone, use it to buy things, and more. Now, a time limit on a dialogue-based game sounds pretty atrocious. So, time passes based on the actions taken instead of real-life time. Every time you collect food or start a conversation, time will tick a bit. And once it's made a full rotation on the clock in the top left corner, you either die outside your bunker or shelter safely with those that you chose. Depending on who is in the bunker, there are also unique dialogue descriptions for things people did in the bunker while waiting out the storm, giving a sort of New Vegas-y style text, infinite endings kind of vibe, I hope. Although I wasn't able to add nearly as many as I wanted to because, again, this was under a bit of a time crunch. But what happens if you run out of time? Well, once it's made that full rotation, you either die outside your bunker or shelter safely with those who you chose. Depending on who's in the bunker, there are also unique dialogue descriptions for things that people did in the bunker while waiting out the storm. Also, don't think that you're necessarily safe if you run out of food while in the bunker. Point is, there's a lot of room to roleplay and experiment with other playthroughs, different options to convince who you want to survive, and achievements to sort of signal the sort of things you've already accomplished. So let's talk about making the game during the Game Jam period. Day 1, I actually tried to stream the progress of the game, although I found it kind of difficult to focus. I worked on it for a few hours after the theme was announced, then streamed for a few hours. Then after stream, kept working on it. I had initially planned to do streams every day of the week, but got so caught up in trying to get the game to a playable point that I sort of failed to stream updates on it. I was totally invested over the course of the next week. I started easy by doing some basic models in Blender, and then basically it was just working in UE5 after that, with exception to coming back and making a few more models of different kinds in Blender, and also making different art assets in ClipPaint Studio. I initially didn't even plan to keep the initial models that I had made for the game, but because I knew already that this was going to be a big undertaking, I wanted to do it quick and dirty, get all the coding stuff done, then replace the meshes at a later point if I had time to spruce things up. When writing the game, I tried to give it the effort that it deserved, since a lot of the gameplay is dialogue. There's a ton of references, obscure historical details, and tongue-in-cheek encounters, so just to give a few of these examples as a speed round of sorts, Astrahasis refers to Atra-Hasis, a 18th century BC ruler of Mesopotamia, and the person described as the closest to a possible real-life Noah. In fact, there's still remnants of that in manuscripts, such as despite there being a Hebrew or Babylonian word for it, the Bible defers to an Assyrian word for the pitch of a boat. Anyways, I thought that it was just fun to put this in because the game jam was calm before the storm, which fits pretty obviously with the idea of probably the most famous storm in human storytelling. I don't know. So yeah, I guess Astrahasis in Feudal Pleading is basically just a souped up reference to Noah's flood, which I thought would fit nice with the theme of the jam. Okay, actual Speedy now, since I kind of rambled there for a second. I thought that William looked like Kor whenever I saw the sketch, so I gave him the last name Korstian, because appreciation, honoring the fact that he made the portraits and helped out. Bill Ringingston, well, he's a rich guy, so like Bill, dollar bill, and like ring, like a cash register makes. The farmer's last name is Shepherd, and so on. Ted Mold, the preacher, is a low-key based on the scandal preacher Ted Haggard from like when I was a tiny kid. And you can check it out for yourself, because it's a free download. Money is optional if you feel nice enough, but it doesn't really take anything except downloading the game, extracting it into a folder, and clicking the icon. So, how did we do? Starting lowest to highest, because there was multiple categories. In the fun category, we ranked 107th out of 1,501st. Personally, I'm extremely flattered and overjoyed by such a high ranking, especially as my first game at all. But this is only where it started. Innovation category, we also got the exact same one, 107 out of 1,501. The game design, we got 104. Then, we started jumping up. Audio, we got 82nd, which I have to give full credit to Core for, of course, because he composed all the music. I played a couple guitar riffs and sent him recordings of that, and then he added viola, which he personally played. He added the piano keys and the synthesizers and the drum beat, and just wonderful. He also did all of the sound effects. Basically, he made a spreadsheet. I told him all the different sounds I wanted. He went out there and he got them.
I really just I took the guitar passage that you sent me, and I was like, oh, this feels like Last of Us. It feels dramatic, and kind of like dark. And this was also earlier in the game where I think, at least like my impression of the game wasn't quite as comedic as it ended up becoming.
Oh yeah.
So it definitely skewed more on the like dramatic side. With like the strings passage and stuff. I was kind of just having fun.
Well, the strings were goated.
With the style. When you're outside, you get a little bit of the outside theme and also a little bit of the church theme that I've modified to fit in like harmonically with everything. And it's the same thing for like the other areas, to give that sort of sense of like being in a physical like space, like you're standing outside and you can hear the sound of the store coming out through, or the sound of the church coming out through the doors. That kind of thing is like something I think is really cool in terms of like game design as a medium for like music composition. Yeah, I'm definitely I'm happy with how it came out. There's always more you can do. I think mostly because the music ended up being a little down to the wire, because I did not, I guess, quite anticipate how much of a time commitment I had gotten myself into with what I chose to do in terms of the art.
Yeah.
So, you have to pick your battles, and that was the battle I picked was the art, which I think was worth it because the characterization is like a pretty key part of the appeal.
Then graphics, this is a severe jump up, and this is something that I would also largely credit to Core, in my opinion. The graphics we got, 14th. That's insane. That's like literally in the 99th percentile. I feel so honored and self-assured to do that well. 14 out of 1,501. And since there was no, voting from my community or anything, it's not like I could leverage you guys to have me cheat and do better. So the fact that all of these people had rated the game so nicely and ended up so high is just unbelievably flattering. But that's not our highest category yet. Our highest category was in theme. In the theme category, we got 4th. Top 5, just out of top 3. Holy crap. So basically, this is the real stuff, baby. I'm just so shocked that it did so well, and thanks again to all those who judged the game and favored upon it well. Thanks also to everyone who came to the streams, and also everyone who downloaded and played the game on their own, said things about it in the Discord, etc., or even just left a nice comment, which we will be going through in a little bit. I called Core up, and Core and I went through that. This has honestly made me so excited to do smaller projects in the future while I work on larger ones. Link again to the game in the cards and in the description. I really hope that Brackeys makes his own video like he did many years ago and showcases the other projects. I'm just hoping that our top 5 placement will at least get us a second of footage shown. It'll feel immortalized that way. I don't know. With 1,500 people, hopefully a few different people get the spotlight. But those are all the individual categories. Our overall category, which I guess averages out the ranks of the other ones, we got 23rd. If this was 23 out of 30, I'd be a little bit bummed, not gonna lie, even though it was my first game. If this was 23rd out of 40, I would feel ambivalent. I wouldn't feel bad about it, but I wouldn't feel super excited. I'd be like, I did an alright job. But 23rd out of over 1,500 is a piece of personal pride, as embarrassing as some people might find it, probably that I won't ever forget. I'm so incredibly happy and proud and grateful, and I just feel awesome. I didn't even win. I didn't even win, but I feel like I got so much. I worked so hard, and I feel like I got recognized for it, and that just makes me so happy. Now, Core and I only played a few of the other Jam games. I spent a couple different days on it. I streamed one day for a few hours once the voting had officially began, and then a couple days later, Core also streamed, himself playing a few different games over a few hours. But I'd like to give example of a few recommendations for other people's games aside from that. And I'd really like to start with Adrift The Storm, where essentially you're collecting scrap and service on a boat, and there's a storm coming slowly. Really loved how this game looked, similar to Fatum Batula, I don't know if I'm saying that right, in it being a sort of PS1, PS2 reminiscent sort of feel with limited pixels and rendering, but in a 3D environment, and I really like how that looks. Next, Shadow of the Storm was this sort of card-based, turn-based RTS roguelike type game. The monochromatic color palette looked beautiful, and I could see this expanding into a full game, honestly, without a whole lot of other additions. Genuinely impressive how polished it was and how much content there was. Only weak thing for me was that the theme felt sort of tacked on. I didn't really see how the storm had much to do with it, but it was a really solid game just in general. Oh, a Stormy Legacy was one I played that was extremely charming and a departure from all the top-down shooters. Not saying that as a negative against top-down shooters, there's just a lot of them. This visual novel has you solving this big event and figuring out who your fiance's family is, trying to get their relations, speaking to the different family members going around. It was a very charming and very nicely made game. Next is Shelter. This game was pretty standard platformer that you jump right in, but while I would have different criticisms to have about the actual gameplay and design and stuff itself, I thought that it handled its theme incredibly smart. So I wish that it would have got ranked a little higher on theme at least. You're in a forest and it starts raining, then raining harder. Then you have to continuously jump to higher ground as the flood levels rise. This encapsulates the calm, the storm, and then that gradual smooth to a sudden progression between them. I don't know, I think it could have deserved a little more credit than it got. Core also played some games that he liked a ton, like Crystal Mole, which actually ended up getting 4th place overall, so clearly other people liked it too. Dealing with waves of enemies between mining resources and making paths, congrats to them for ranking so high. Core also seemed to absolutely adore the art style for In Wait For, which got 20th for graphics. The game's collage style is so beautiful and storybook-like, it stands out and it just looks very striking. Lastly, I would give a special thanks to Divine Dining, specifically the developers of it as well. They were so friendly to me, came into the stream, were nice, and their game project was extremely polished. It's similar to like Overcooked, where you have these different people coming into your restaurant, they ask for a meal, then you have to cook the meal and get them to them before you run out of time or make them upset or whatever. And then also Greek gods start coming in as customers, like Zeus and Poseidon and all that. I was surprised at the polish and quality. They also got 29th in graphics and an overall of 57th out of 1,500. I can't believe that we did so well. Let me know if you would be willing to support or be interested in more projects like Feudal Pleading. I do really want to eventually make some sort of career out of making proper games and releasing them on, Steam and Switch and stuff. But obviously making that takes a lot longer than a 1-week game jam. So, although I've been working on other projects for a long while, it was so good to finally finish one and be able to show something for my work. Thank you to Brackeys. Thank you to my supporters, to the kind people who ranked me favorably, to the people who financially support me. Thanks to Core for being my partner on this project, and thank you for watching. Please leave a like and a comment, because obviously it helps. And here's some bits of Core and I already responding to some comments that were on the game page. I will admit there were a couple of folks I conveniently left out of the bunker. That's reasonable.
See, that's a beautiful thing. If you want to let people die, you can choose to do so.
Who would you leave out of the bunker out of everybody, though?
Because probably the rich guy.
Bill?
Yeah, I'd leave Bill out.
What's wrong with Bill? We have literal cannibals on this team.
Yeah, but the cannibals kind of chill. I kind of fuck with them.
Bill is so sweet, though. Whenever something bad happens to him, he looks so sad. This was fascinating. Literal, but cool take on the theme. The art was good, the characters were charming through their animations, and reminded me of Salad Fingers. Music was good too. Only criticism I can think of is that the lady with the car said that I can have her lamp, but I don't think I got it, nor could I see where I could take it, so I couldn't convince the one guy who was scared of the dark. You have to get the preservatives from Osterhassis and the lamp, but that's another thing that came down to development time, whereas I don't have time to fully model this and then script the events to where it appears and disappears and then add more things to the inventory. I just treated it as like a bool trigger. So if you see her saying, hey, I'll give you the lamp, then you have the lamp. Really, really cool game with a really cool art style and dialogues. I think there is nothing that I didn't like, except for not being able to have everyone survive. Someone is just too hungry. Just kidding. This was really cool. Thank you. So, it is very difficult, but you can actually have everybody survive. You can have everybody survive in the game. There's a way to have everyone survive. There's an achievement for it. The achievement may or may not work, because for some reason it seems finicky. Sometimes the achievement works, sometimes it doesn't, and I'm not sure why, and I didn't have time to fix it. But there is a way to have everyone survive. In fact, there's multiple ways. It's just a little bit on the wire. The general rule is it's 3 food per person in the bunker per day. So if you have 10 people, then it's 30 for 2 days, then you need 60. So you need at least 60 food, probably more than 60 food, because I can't remember. I think Cucker's event will spawn, even if you're at 0. I can't remember, though. It's such a specific case. But they said cool art style. That's you. That's your art style.
Thank you.
I doubt he's talking about the scuffed 3D. I mean, I can make good-looking 3D stuff, but I was like, okay, let's just make it this as quick and dirty as possible, and then if I have time, add as many extra features at the end.
I mean, I think it's charming. And I honestly, I think that's part of the fun of projects like this, because in the same way, rather than trying to be all, I guess, fancy with it, I just did what came naturally in terms of the art.
Yeah.
like I just went with whatever was my first thought. With every character, was basically the first thought that I had was what I did, and then I did whatever I thought would be funny or interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't try to overthink it too much, because when you're in a project like this, you can't afford to spend time thinking. You have to just do everything.
Yeah,
you have to just commit.
From being like the director for your own upcoming pilot and all the character designs and different changes and stuff that I'm sure all that had to go through, I'm sure this was very much like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, it's quite a reprieve to just be able to do something and be like, okay, that's finished.
Okay, this looks good.
This doesn't have to go through 10 layers of checks before we can lock it.
Yeah, literally. Great art style and idea. More indication that time is running out would be great. I definitely could have added that. I could have added like a sound effect, clock ticks, or like every quarter maybe. These are just more things that definitely, if I had more time. Because first time I played, time ran out while I was gathering crops. So I know this isn't uncommon either, because at least one other person... No, I think
when we were watching our friend Eden play, that's literally the first thing that they did.
Yes, Eden did that on the very first playthrough. And back to the music, that's something Eden said also when he started playing. He identified, he went, this music is super like Last of Us-y, which is crazy, because I sent you the guitar thing. That's what you said about the guitar, and then you made this whole track on top of it. And then that's what he said. I mean, so you like preserved the vision through your work like perfectly. The fact that it was like the exact same comparison, I don't know. Phenomenal. The game is engaging, unique, and visually stunning. Your hard work and creativity are evident in every corner of this game. Every corner. Crazy this was put together in 1 week. Love the art and dialogue. Great work. I commented this too on a couple other games that I was really surprised at how good the quality was just for like 1 week. But it feels really good actually to have someone else say that to you.
Yeah. It's honestly, I think it's cool because it feels exciting to realize like how much you can do in 1 week.
Yeah, considering I've been working like the whole year on different game projects, haven't been able to like finish a single one. Been having a lot of trouble with like scoping and all that sort of stuff. Love the art. Great game. That's your wheelhouse. They loved your art. Super unique art style. And I adored the dialogue.
I don't think it's that unique.
Super unique.
I certainly wouldn't say it's super unique.
It's the only art style.
There's no other art.
It's fun and I liked other elements, but the best thing is art. I really liked the art. Hope you released this game with this art.
What is it? Well, we did.
We did it! We released this game with this art.
Maybe they mean like a full version of the game?
Probably.
Like a fleshed out version?
Yeah. That would be, I mean, I definitely could expand out on the core stuff. Like, okay, we have the prototype, and so I just add like a ton more dialogue, or I add like a bunch more options.
Yeah.
I mean, this is very easy to expand out from the base that we have, even if there was no new art. I mean, even if I just popped in there by myself and just added a bunch of shit.
I feel like you could easily add just more like requirements for like getting people. Like there's a couple people that you can just talk to and then they'll just go with you without you really needing to do anything. Or like, you know, the store, you could just add you could add plenty more items and add other like things you have to do to get money, to get items. You know, there's so much potential. That's how I feel with a lot of stuff like this is, you know, you can't help but imagine, oh, but what if it was more? Which I think is the fun of, at least for me with the game jam. I know a lot of people will make like a very self-contained, like iterative kind of thing. But for me, I find the appeal of these kind of things is that it's more like a pitch almost. Of like, okay, here's a potential game. So you can play it and sort of get an idea of what a bigger version of it could look like.